Bole Baba Ki Jai. So in our last discourse, we heard about the birth of Veda Vyasa. And now the rishis, the munis, have more questions for Sutta. The rishi said, "O sinless Sutta, you have described to us in detail the birth of Veda Vyasa, of unrivaled fire, from the womb of Satyavati, who was also known as Matsya Gandhab because of her smell like a fish, but she no longer smells like a fish. But we have one great doubt in our minds, though, O knower of Dharma, which is not being removed by your words. O sinless one, first, as regards the mother of Veda Vyasa, the auspicious Satyavati, we have this doubt how she came to be united to the virtuous king Santanu of the family of Puru. He's a greatly religious man, and how could he have married Satyavati, knowing her to be a fisherman's daughter and born of a lower family? Now say, who was the first wife of Santanu, and how Bhishma, the intelligent son of Santanu, came to be born of the parts of Vasu. O Sutta, you have told before that Bhishma, of indomitable valor, made that Satyavati's son, the brave Tritangada, king, and subsequent to his death, made his younger brother king. But when the elder brother, Bhishma, the greatly religious and beautiful, was present, how was it that the two sons of Satyavati had been installed by Bhishma himself, who could have reigned and ruled the kingdom so wisely? Again, on the demise of the younger son, Satyavati became very much grieved and got two sons born of her two sons' wives by Veda Vyasa. How can we explain this fact? Why did she do this? Why did she not give to Bhishma the kingdom? Why did Bhishma not marry? And how was it that the elder brother, Veda Vyasa, of indomitable valor, did such an irreligious act as to beget two sons from the wives of his brothers? O Sutta, why did Veda Vyasa do such an act in spite of his being a Muni? The actions of Vedas are inferred from their subsequent good conduct. How can this act of Veda Vyasa be calculated as one amongst them? O intelligent one, you are the disciple of Veda Vyasa, therefore you are the best man to solve our doubts. And we are very eager to hear all about this. At this, Sutta said, in ancient days there reigned a king named Mahabisa in the family of the Iksaku. He was endowed with all the qualities of a great king. He was the foremost of all the kings, truthful and religious. That highly intelligent king performed thousands of sacrifices, thereby satisfied Indra, the king of the Devas, and went to heaven. Once on occasion, the king went to the abode of Brahma. The other gods also went there to serve Brahma. The great river Ganga Devi, too, assuming the feminine form, went to Brahma to serve him. Now in the interval, violent winds arose, and the clothing of Ganga Devi went off. At this, the Devas did not look at her, rather kept their faces downwards, but the king, Mahabisa, continued gazing at her. Ganga also came to know the king and that he had become attached to her. Brahma, seeing that both of them are love-stricken and are shameless, became angry and cursed them immediately. O king, you better take your birth again in the human world and practice great meritorious deeds and come again to this heaven. Thus saying, Brahma looked at Ganga, who was attached to the king, and addressed her, "You too better go to the human world and become his wife." Both of them, the king as well as Ganga, came out of Brahma's abode very much grieved in their hearts. The king Mahabisa thought of coming to this world and reflected on the kings thereof, and settled to make the king Pratibha of Puru's family his father. At this time, the 8 Vasus, with their wives, were wandering around in various places, and enjoying as they liked, they came to the hermitage of Vasista. Among the aforesaid 8 Vasus, Prithu and others, one was Vasu Dayau's wife, and seeing Nandani, the sacrificial cow of Vasista, asked her husband, "Whose is this excellent cow that I see?" The Vasu then replied as follows, "O beautiful one, this is Vasista's cow. Whoever be he, a man or a woman, that drinks her milk gets his longevity extended to 10,000 years, and his youth never ends." Hearing this, the Vasu's wife said, "There's a very beautiful comrade of mine, the daughter of the Rajarsi Usina in the world of auspicious qualities. Oh, kindly bring to me this Vasista's from his hermitage that auspicious sacrificial cow, Nandini, together with her calf that yields all desires. My comrade will then drink her milk and be thereby free from disease, old age, and become the chief amongst all mankind." Hearing thus his wife's words, the Vasu Dayayu, though sinless, stole away together with Priti and the other Vasus, the cow Nandini, in utter defiance to the self-controlled Muni Vasista. When the cow Nandini had been stolen, the great ascetic Vasista came quickly to the hermitage with abundance of fruits. The ascetic Muni Vasista did not find his cow or her calf, and he began to search for her in many forests and caves. But when he, the son of Varuna, could not find out his cow, even after prolonged searches, he then took recourse to meditation and came to know that the Vasus had stolen the cow, and Vasista became very angry. He expressed, "When the Vasus have stolen this, my cow, in utter defiance to me, they must be born amongst men." When the religious Varuna's son Vasista thus cursed the Vasus, they became very sorry and absent-minded. All of them went to Vasista's hermitage and saw him there. They began to supplicate him as much as they could and took refuge under him. Seeing the Vasus standing there before him in extremely distressed condition, the virtuous Muni Vasista said, "You all will be free from the curse within 1 year. But the Vasudayayu will dwell amongst men for a long period, as he has been the one that directly stole my Nandini and her calf." So while the Vasus, thus cursed, were returning, they saw on the way the chief river Ganga Devi, also who had been cursed to come to the earth, and was also therefore distressed. All of them bowed down to her simultaneously and said, "O Devi, a serious thought is troubling our minds. How can we who live on nectar in the heavens take our birth in human wombs? So, O best of river, you better be a woman and give birth to us. O sinless one, you better be the wife of the sage King Santanu, and no sooner we be born of your womb, kindly throw us in the river Ganga, your water. And if you do thus, O Ganga, we will certainly be free of our curse." Ganga Devi replied, "Well, that will be." Thus spoken, the Vasus went to their respective places, and Ganga Devi too, thinking on the subject again and again, went out of that place. At this time, Mahabisa was to be born as a son of the king Pratipa and would become known as Santanu. He would be exceedingly religious and true to his promise. One day, while the king Pratipa was praising Surya Devi, the sun of unequaled energy, Ganga Devi assumed an extraordinarily beautiful feminine form and came out of the waters and sat on the right thigh of the king Pratipa. The sage king Pratipa spoke out to the lady sitting on his right thigh thus, "O beautiful-faced one, why, unasked, have you sat on my auspicious right thigh?" The lovely Ganga then replied, "Hear why I have sat here, O best of Kurus, O king. Becoming attached to you, I have sat on your thigh, so please accept me." At this, the king Pratipa spoke to the beautiful lady full of youth and beauty, "I never go simply out of passion to another's wife. There's another point. You have sat on my right thigh. That is the seat of sons and sons' wives. So when my desired son will be born, you will then be my son's wife. And certainly, by your good will, my son will be born." The lady of divine form said, "Well, that will be done," and went away. The king returned to his palace, thinking of the lady. After some time, he had a son born to him, and when the son attained his teens, the king desired to lead a forest life and communicated this matter to his son. He said also, "If the aforesaid beautifully smiling girl comes to you to marry, then marry her. And I am also ordering you not to question her anything. Who are you, and so forth. If you take her as your legal wife, you will certainly be happy." Thus saying to his son, the king Pratipa handed over his kingdom to his son and gladly retired into the forest. The king practiced tapasya in the forest and worshipped Ambika. On quitting his mortal coil, he went by his sheer merit to the heavens. The highly energetic king Santanu, on getting his kingdom, began to administer justice according to the laws of Dharma and governed his subjects. Thus ends the third chapter of the second book on the description of the curse on Ganga, Mahabhisa, and the Vasus, and the Mahapuranam, Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses. And we'll go on to chapter 4. Sutta said, "On the king Pratipa ascending to the heavens, the truly hero king Santanu went out hunting often. Once while he was roaming in the wild wilderness on the banks of the Ganges, he saw a fawn-eyed, well-decorated, beautiful woman. No sooner the king Santanu saw her, that he became addicted to her and thought himself thus, 'Certainly my father spoke of this beautiful-faced woman who is looking like a second Lakshmi, endowed with beauty and youth.' The king could not rest satisfied simply with seeing the lotus-like face. The hairs on his body stood on their ends, and his heart was very much attached to her. Ganga Devi, too, knew him to be the king Mahabhisa and became, in her turn, very much attached to him. She then went smiling toward the king. Seeing the blue-colored lady looking askance at him, the king became very happy and consoled her in sweet words and said, 'O one of beautiful thighs, are you Devi? Or are you human? Are you Gandharva, a Yakshi, the daughter of Nagas, or a celestial nymph? Whoever you may be, O beautiful one, please be my wife. Your sweet smile, it seems, are brimful of love, so be my legal wife today.' Sutta said the king Santanu could not recognize the lady to be Ganga, but Ganga knew that he was the king Mahabhisa, who they knew each other in heaven and was born as Santanu. Hearing the above words of the king, Ganga, out of her previous affection, spoke out to the king, smiling, 'O king, I know that you are the son of King Pratipa. Behold, Though it is inevitable that women will get their husbands, yet who is that beautiful lady that does not husband according to her liking and qualifications? But I can take you as my husband if you make a certain promise to me. Hear my resolve. Afterwards, I will marry you. O king, whatever I will do, be it good or bad, auspicious or inauspicious, you must not hinder or interrupt me, nor ever say that it is not to your liking and satisfaction. Whenever you will break that resolve, I will instantly quit you and go to another place, wherever I like. The king Santanu said, well, that will be, and promised to the above effect. Then Ganga Devi recollected within herself Vasu's words and thought of the attachment of King Mahabisa and accepted Santanu as her husband. Thus married to the king Santanu, the beautiful Ganga in human form went to his abode. The king, having got married to her, began to enjoy her in all the pleasant gardens, and the lady too appreciated his amorous feelings and began to serve him to his satisfaction. Thus many years elapsed in lovely enjoyments between the couple who looked like Indra and his Shakti, and they did not feel at all how the time passed. The lady, endowed with all qualities, and the clever king, well versed in the art of loving, began to enjoy incessantly like Lakshmi and Narayana in their divine place. Thus many years passed when the lovely-eyed lady became pregnant of King Santanu's sperm, and in due time gave birth to a son who was a Vasu. No sooner the son was born than Ganga Devi threw it in the waters of the Ganges. Thus the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh son were therein successively thrown in the water and drowned. Then the king became very anxious and thought with himself, what am I to do now? How my family will be preserved? This my wife, incarnate of sin, has killed my 7 sons. If I now desist her, she will instantly leave me and go away. Now this is the 8th pregnancy as desired by me. Now if I do not interrupt her, she will certainly throw my son in the Ganges. Whether a son will be born again or not is doubtful, and even if that be born, it is doubtful whether she will preserve that child. Now what am I to do in this doubtful point? However, I will try to continue the thread of my family line. Now in due time, the Vasu, who having been influenced by his wife, had been the one that actually stole Vasista's cow, Nandini, became born as the 8th son of Ganga Devi. The king Santanu, seeing his son, fell onto Ganga's feet and said, O thin-bodied woman, I pray to you to give my life today. Better nourish this, my one son. O beautiful one, you killed in succession my 7 exceedingly beautiful sons. O one of beautiful hips, I now fall at your feet. O beautiful one, save the life of this child of mine. If you ask for me any other thing today, even that be very rare, I will give it to you. But you better now keep the thread of my family line. The pundits versed in the Vedas say that he who has no issues cannot go to heaven. So, O beautiful one, today I pray to you to keep the life of my 8th son. That spoken to by Santanu, Ganga Devi was eager to take away the son to throw him in the waters. The king became very sorrowful and angry and spoke out, O vile and vicious woman, what are you going to do? Do you not fear hell? Of what villain are you the daughter, that you are always doing this vicious deed? O sinner, go away wherever you will, or remain here as you like. It matters little, but my son will remain here. When you attempt to bring my family to extinction, what use is there in living with you? When the king thus spoke to the woman who was ready to take away the son, she angrily spoke as follows. O king, when you have acted against my promise, my word is broken, and my connection with you has stopped from today. Therefore, I will take this son to the forest, where I will nourish him. I am Ganga. To fulfill God's work, I have come here. The high-souled Vasista cursed before the 8 Vasus. He said, better be born as men. They became very anxious, and seeing me, they prayed, O sinless one, let you be the mother of us all. O best of kings, I granted them what they desired, and then for the purpose of serving God's ends, I became your wife. Know this is my history. The 7 Vasus already were born and were freed. Now this is the last Vasu, and he will remain here for some time as your son. O Satanu, now take the son offered by Ganga. Know this to be Deva Vasu, and enjoy the pleasure of having a son, O highly fortunate one. The son will be famous by the name of Gangaya, Ganga's son, and will be the most powerful of all. O king, today I will take the son to the place where I chose you as my husband. I will nourish him, and when he attains this youth, I will return him to you. For this son, if deprived of mother, will not be happy, nor will he live. Thus saying, Ganga vanished with the son. The king Santanu became very sorrowful and passed away his time in his palace. The king thought always of the separation from his wife and his son, and thus painfully governed his kingdom. Thus some time passed on, when once on an occasion the king Santanu went out hunting and came to the banks of the Ganges. Here he saw with great wonder that a boy was playing with a great bow and was shooting arrows after arrows. The king's attention was more attached towards the boy, but whether that boy was his or not did not at all come to his mind. Looking at this extraordinary feats, his agility in shooting arrows with ease and quickness, his learning that can have no equal, and his beautiful form as if of Cupid. He became greatly surprised and asked him, O sinless one, whose son are you? The hero boy did not reply anything, but went away shooting his arrows. The king thought within himself, who is this boy? Whose son is he? What to do now? To whom shall I go now? Thus pondering, he recollected within himself and began to recite verses in praise of Ganga. Ganga, assuming her beautiful form as before, became visible to the king. Seeing her, the king said, O Ganga, who is this boy that has just gone? Will you show him once more to me now? Hearing these words of Santanu, Ganga said, O king of kings, he is your son. He is the 8th Vasu. So long I have nourished him, and now I hand him over to you. This is the great ascetic Gangaya. He is illustrious skin of your family. The glory of your line will be enhanced. I have taught him the whole science of archery. This pure son of yours dwelt in the hermitage of Vasista and has become versed in all the Vedas and skilled in all actions. So, O king of kings, take now your son and be happy. Thus saying, Ganga gave him his son and vanished. The king also became very glad and embraced his son. He smelled his son's head and took him to his chariot and drove towards his own city. On returning to Hastinapur, the king held a great festival in honor of the arrival of his son. He called all his astrologers and inquired what day was auspicious. He then called all his subjects and ministers and installed Gangaya as the crown prince. The religious Santanu became very happy of making him the crown prince. He forgot the pains due to Ganga's leaving him. Sutta said, Thus I have described to you the cause of the curse on Vasus, the birth of Bhishma, also known as Gangaya, from the womb of Ganga, the union of Ganga and Santanu. He who hears in this world this holy story of Ganga's birth and the birth of Vasu is freed from all sins and gets mukti. O Munis, I have described these meritorious holy accounts as I heard from the mouth of Vyasa. Anybody who hears this holy Srimad Bhagavatam, endowed with 5 characteristics and filled with various anecdotes that came out of the mouth of Vyasa, finds all his sins destroyed and attains peace and blessedness. O Munis, thus has been described completely to you this history. Thus ends the 4th chapter on the birth of the Vasus in the Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses. Mahamaya Mata Ki Jai, Hare Kandashvari Mata Ki Jai, Bole Baba Ki Jai.